So this is from Whispers from Eternity by Paramhansa Yogananda, a book of prayer poems. This one is Flood Me with Thy Omnipresent Love. O fountain of love, flood the lowlands of our love for home and family with Thy omnipresent love. O mighty source of all our rivers of desire, teach us not to cut ourselves off from Thee, hunting on dry sands of sense satisfaction. Love is our soul's birthright. We demand now that all the rivers of our cravings be redirected through valleys of humility, eager self-service, and concern for others, until, reinforced by Thy torrential blessings, they merge into the ocean of all fulfillment in Thee. Bless us that the rivulets of our sympathy, affection, and love lose not themselves in the sands of dreary selfishness. Let the little, lonely, separately moving streamlets of our love, which come from Thee, merge at last in the vastness of Thy perfect love. And this is from Rays of the One Light, which are parallel commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita, written by Swami Kriyananda. This chapter this week is week 26, and the title is The Redeeming Light. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. The book of Isaiah in the Bible tells us, "The people that walked in darkness have seen a great light. They that dwell in the land of the shadow of death, upon them hath the light shined." What is this light of which so many scriptures speak? In Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramhansa Yogananda, we read of an early experience that the Master had with that light. Master writes, "I was blessed about the age of 8 with a wonderful healing through the photograph of Lahiri Mahashaya. This experience gave intensification to my divine love. While at our family estate in Ichapur, Bengal, I was stricken with Asiatic cholera. My life was despaired of. The doctors could do nothing. At my bedside, Mother frantically motioned me to look at Lahiri Mahashaya's picture on the wall above my head. Bow to him mentally. She knew I was too feeble even to lift my hands in salutation. If you really show your devotion and inwardly kneel before him, your life will be spared." I gazed at his photograph and saw there a blinding light enveloping my body and the entire room. My nausea and other uncontrollable symptoms disappeared. I was well. At once I felt strong enough to bend over and touch Mother's feet in appreciation of her immeasurable faith in her Guru. Mother pressed her head repeatedly against the little picture. "O omnipresent Master, I thank Thee that Thy light hath healed my son." I realized that she, too, had witnessed the luminous blaze through which I had instantly recovered from a usually fatal disease. "Where my light is," God once told a saint whom the divine light had healed, "no darkness can dwell." The divine light, pure, calm, liberating, is the only final cure for every kind of delusion, ill health, emotional grief, and spiritual ignorance. Seek it daily in the silence, in deep meditation. As the Bhagavad Gita says in the 5th chapter, "For whom that darkness of the soul is chased by light, splendid and clear shines manifest the truth, as if a sun of wisdom sprang to shed its beams of light." Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om. This topic of the redeeming light is crucial, really. It's so important to remember what it is that saves us, what it is that helps us, and where we are going, not where we've been and not even where we are now. You see, it is the redeeming light, that which, thank you, the light redeems. And we don't really use the word redeem much here except to redeem coupons, which is not exactly what we're thinking of. It would be hard to possibly, we are all coupons in God's shop of life, and no, I don't think so. But redeem is basically that which saves, that which recovers, that which rescues. And so this light is really what heals us. And it's interesting because we can think of how healing is affected on a physical level. We, go to the physician and we get basically some repairs, done to the body. Or we go to or we get some maybe Ayurvedic medicine or homeopathy or some other thing that involves taking in a pill, and we somehow trust that the chemistry and so on and whatever it is will work itself out. Now, these are understood on from a material point of view, or at least the explanations I just gave were on a material point of view. Fix the bone, put the muscle back together. Chemistry, the chemicals, it's still matter. And this comes from our sort of history of thinking of reality in terms of matter. We know now that matter is energy in this Dwapara Yuga on the one hand and Einstein on the other. We know that matter is energy, and so actually energy is the fundamental building block. We can't rest there too casually because in the next Yuga we discover that beneath energy is mind power, or the vibration of the mind, or divine magnetism. And just when we thought we finally have the answer, then we come to the next Yuga, thousands of years later, where we realize all is God. So we might as well realize all is God now and save ourselves the Yugas. Now, the idea of energy then tells us that even if physical healing is done with physical means, that the energy involved is very important. In fact, more important. Some doctors remark regularly, and I say this with some hesitation with enough doctors in the room, that they can say, no, do you have a license? I don't think you can speak without a license to practice medicine. But anyway, some doctors I have heard have said that after performing a surgery, which necessarily is a bit, of a, let's just say, not the most elegant thing, no matter what, ripping into the body, stitching it back together, is basically like doing sewing or stitching or some kind of tailor work. That when you revisit that incision or you revisit that site so many months later of healing, the body has put itself back together in a much cleaner and clearer way. Sometimes healing can be effected beyond any conventional means. There was a woman, Anita Moorjani, you may have heard of her. She's famous for writing a book, Dying to Be Me, which has many it's a play on words, but she had a near-death experience and then healed from it, recovered and healed from the disease that brought it on, and then became, as she felt, more herself. And she has a mission of going around the world and telling people many things, be better people and so on, and sharing her story, which is miraculous, partly because she was suffering from cancer and she had these tumors that were the size of lemons. She's an Indian, but she was in Singapore, I think. And so she had these massive tumors. And the doctors just said, that's it. There's nothing we can do. In fact, they said that to her family right in front of her. She was in a coma. And they said, she's in a coma, so what does it matter, So they said it's hopeless. And she said she could hear everything that was going on. She heard it was hopeless, and she thought, well, I guess that's it, and she gave up. And she said, therefore, never say anything like that. Okay, yes, we can, ha ha ha, all right. Don't say anything like that in front of a patient. They may appear unresponsive, but they can usually hear you, or at least sometimes hear you. And it's not just a question of the sense of hearing. Master, in fact, said the sense of hearing is the last sense to go when we die. So when someone is dying and withdrawing from the body, even though everything else may have shut down, still there's hearing. So keep that in mind too. A friend of mine, knowing this, it's kind of a sad story in a way until we sort of, my friend lost her husband. He died, and then I'm thinking that's kind of sad. But then, of course, now she's died too, and so they're back together, I'm sure, in the astral world. But he went out for a run and had a heart attack. Came back and had a heart attack right in front of the house. And so she came out, others, I don't know who found him first, but she was just whispering in his ear, I love you, because she knew he might still be able to hear her. And so that's a good use of that. Another is, Master said, chant Om in the ear, the right ear especially, of someone who's dying. That will help them to follow that sound back to God and sort of leave in a higher way, some than just feeling that attachment of the world still. So this Anita Morjani had these tumors, and then when she had her near-death experience, which of course is the whole big story, which I won't go into right now, but she came back and she knew that she would be healed. And she says more about it more clearly, obviously, but than I can say here. But all these, incurable tumors, right? That's the whole point. That's why she was dying. Incurable. Nothing can be done. Over the course, she'd had the cancer, I don't even know how many months. Over the course of like 5 days or whatever, they all just disappeared. And so where was the surgery? Where was the medicine? Where were the chemicals? The chemicals were still there, but they were obeying a higher medicine. This of energy. And where did that increased energy come from? From a shift in her consciousness. Because that's really what happened. She was so uplifted, and also, yes, you can say the karma shifted, and it certainly did, but still, she realized that, in fact, I'll say this other part of it, I think, I should have reread the story, but it just occurred to me to say it, so I didn't study up on it beforehand, that she had always been taking in people's negative messages about her. Anything negative someone said, she just took in. She said it was, I don't know if she said this, but it was like drinking poison. And so, this may not be, though tumors disappearing by light may not be everyone's experience, drinking in people's poison may strike a chord. So she would just accept it. If someone hands you a cup of poison, you just say, Vendam. And if someone gives you a cold idli, you say, no thanks. If somebody gives you sambar that's too spicy, or even worse, bland, you just say Vendam. But if someone says, you're a real idiot, and here's some poison, sometimes we go, yes, and glug, 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 glug. How ridiculous. You don't have to say, no, you're an idiot. Here, you drink the poison I'm giving you, or drink your own poison. Just say, Om, and just forget it. You see? And so again, she wasn't blaming them. She was blaming, or not even blaming, but she realized she was the one taking it in. We can say someone shouldn't offer us cups of poison, maybe, but we shouldn't be taking them and drinking them. You see? And so let's first start with that, because that we can control. We walk down the whole line of the morning. Poison for you, poison Venama, konja poison. And we just say, no, 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 no. Not fighting the people, but not having that opening in our aura, not having that opening in our armor, not that receptivity. I'm looking for poison. Who has poison for me today? Will it be you? because I need some poison. No need for it. Because we're only drinking poison because we're thirsty for it. You see? If someone says, you're an idiot, we say, yeah, I know, and I guess you finally found out. No, it's not true at all. So there's no reason to have people trick us into sort of admitting that we're fools. On one level, we are, of course, because God is the only wise one, and it can be very joyful to be his divine fool. Fine. But in terms of on a sort of hurtful way, or in a way that degrades the light of our souls, no. If we want the ego to be taken down a peg, sure, that's fine. But even that's done in a joyful surrender, not in my ego can be small, but at least should be the same size as yours. Don't try to be taller, all this stuff. No. Because there's no joy in it. That's the reason. Not because it's spiritual, not because the scriptures say so, but because there's no joy in living that way, in always an ego battle. And I'm reminded of a friend who recently approached me and said, I'm struggling because my child is always on the internet, and we can't get the child to stop being on the internet. And so we say, and not doing homework and not going to sleep and, becoming a bit of a problem. And she said, I really struggle, my husband and I, because we say you should be off. Get out, you'll be on for 1 hour. That's the rule. And I had to only watch an hour of television a night when I was a child. I thought I might die. From lack of TV oxygen or something. And it's ridiculous to look back at it now, and I'm grateful to my parents that they were so clear, because then I had to read, and I did things with the computer instead. But it's... Anyway, so he also, of course, this child was struggling with this, draconian rule of there are other things in the world besides Facebook or whatever. And but she said it's so stressful because I said, get off the thing, and you're still on the thing, and this power struggle. This is vaguely relevant to sort of ego versus ego, is how we got here. And that power struggle can be very frustrating in any situation that we're in. Now, with children, there's a blanket rule that one's own children can drive one crazy. In fact, there's a statement that says that if you're about to have children, before you have them, go and tell all your friends with children what they should be doing and give them all advice, because this is the last time you will have all the answers. You see, because as soon as you have your own, they're custom made by God to get in all the different things. And so anyway, but again, it's so that we can grow together. Sometimes you get children who are friends. That's nice. But still, so she was really struggling with this my ego versus your ego is one way to put it. Like I said, there's more involved when it's your own child, and I don't pretend to understand the whole thing because it is very visceral. I say that not having children I've had cats, and you have to sort of, you will eat that food, but they eat the food. So that's about as much of a struggle as we have to have. But so I said, this struggle is really the problem. Because, when we lose our cool, it's just sort of, we lose credibility. Just kind of like, oh yeah, very good. You look really well put together. And I said, it was nothing more ineffective than every night, I said for the last time. It's not the last time. It's the 100th time after all. And there will probably be another one tomorrow. And so anyway, I luckily had heard of a prescription for this particular ailment from another friend of mine who had a trouble with his kids who were literally basically addicted to the internet in that they couldn't stop. And so they would stay up until 7 a.m. on a school night, on a weeknight, doing whatever it was, and then they were getting sick, they were missing school because they were falling asleep then. And they couldn't cut themselves off no matter what he tried. If you do this, I will pay you $50, or if you do this, I will cut off your food, or, either way. So finally he just turned it off. Not forever, but every night at 9 o'clock or whatever, he would just pull the cord out of the wall. Guess what? No internet. This was before cell phones and, mobile hotspots and things like that. But even that can probably be worked around. And so then, but he just said, how else can you occupy your time? Maybe homework or cleaning, or you could cook me something. But it just took all the power struggle away. And so I encouraged her. She said, well, in this situation, somebody's in the house who works from home. And I said, well, what time does the person finish work? And then just at that time. And you can always, as an adult, you can always use your own mobile internet and then change the password so that, other people sniffing for your Wi-Fi can't get to it, the child, in other words. So anyway, the point of this is that we have to try to find a way to get out of that power struggle. When you're in a power struggle with someone, then try to find a way out of it. Either, in this case, it's a little bit like pulling the rug out from under the person, but you're trying to help them. And an adult and a parent is obviously a different relationship than two colleagues or a boss or something. But still, when we find ourselves this wound up, that has to be fixed first. Because even if we come out with the best solution, if we come at it like this, it will have a little bit of a taint. It will be a little less good than if we could do it from a calm place. And if we get calm enough, we may realize there's no need to solve the situation outwardly. Let it take care of itself. Or tell God, you have one more day to fix this before I bring in the heavy artillery. And so then sometimes he will do, okay. But we have to get right first. Even if it's an unfair situation, even if whatever. Trying to say, look, I'm this tense and tight about it. What can I do to lighten up? And then maybe I can find a better solution. And so this light that comes in to heal us, whether it's energy, when we do the energization exercises, for example, we feel better. We feel sort of like the mobile that's been plugged back in to the source. And all this energy comes that wasn't there before. And interestingly, there was no mudrika, there was no coffee, and there was no payasam, and yet we felt perked up and refreshed all of a sudden. And so this is the power of the light. That light comes in to chase away the darkness. How do we bring in the light? As he says in the reading, Swamiji says, through daily meditation. You see, it brings us up. That light also shifts our perspective. It's sort of like climbing a mountain where we see things much farther and in a much in their correct proportions. Whereas when we're down low in the ground or in the market or in the middle of it, even a small thing can seem like a big, huge deal. I mean, this is one story that just occurred to me. Was a friend of mine who was in graduate school, and he came home, and my friend was from Egypt, and he saw his roommate, and his roommate was very sad, and he said to his roommate, "What happened?" And he said, "I just can't talk about it." And he said, "Well, but I'm worried for you. Is everything okay?" And he said, "Not really." And he said, What is the matter? I won't be able to rest." And his roommate said, "Well, I think my PhD advisor doesn't like my thesis proposal." And my friend said, "Is that all?" He said, "I thought, this was like a crisis." And the man's like, "What do you mean?" And my friend said, "Well, I grew up in Egypt. I remember being falsely arrested during a protest, and and at gunpoint led to jail, and kept there overnight with no food or nothing. Thank God I was let out in the morning. That to me was disturbing. And so it was just the scale of things. But you see, when we're in such a small, focused, narrow thing, whatever we're focusing on, that can seem the most colossal disaster. And so we have to get a proper perspective. And again, bring in that light. Now, if you meditate, if you mix with spiritual people, if you can think of it every day, if we open the curtains to let in the light, every day open the curtains of your mind, open the curtains of your heart to let in that light through meditation, through spiritual reading, through watching videos of spiritual people and so on, listening to spiritual music. And even if you've heard the same song 1,000 times, it can be, it lets in that light. I mean, what would be the analog? It would be, why open the curtains? It's just the same old dumb sunlight that was there yesterday. I mean, isn't there anything else? It's like, no, of course not. I mean, did the plants go in the morning say, I don't feel like turning towards the sun and growing today? Same old boring sun? No, it's that which energizes us. It's the source of their energy in any case. Interestingly, Master said the sun is a symbol of God the Father. And so that's one thing. But then he also said God, the sun is also the sun, the sun, wherever it is a symbol of the spiritual eye. And this is a little bit funny at first, perhaps, to think that, the spiritual eye in us is, we're these tiny things compared to the sun. The sun is how many times bigger than the earth? Does anybody know offhand? Massive. You draw the earth and the sun, and the earth is like a speck of dust compared to the sun, and it's their proper, relative sizes. And then we are pretty much a speck of dust on the earth. And then yet the sun is a symbol. It's the symbol of the spiritual eye. We might think, no, the spiritual eye is a symbol of the sun. But it's not. It's the other way around. And so we want to let in that light in order to heal us. In other words, it doesn't always have to be surgery, physical surgery. It doesn't always, and sorry, again, the doctor's like, well, really? No surgery? I mean, what will my job be then? Okay, well, some surgeries, but in this case, what we're taught for our purposes, no surgery is necessary, and that includes emotional surgery. I have to figure out all the things that are bothering me and why they're bothering me and what to do about them. And once I have a plan of action and a follow-up, then I can feel better. That can help. I'm not saying not to do it, but sometimes it can't help. Or sometimes it is a lesser level of help. It's still surgery. When we bring in the light, often the problems disappear. It's so wonderful to read Sri Yukteswar saying that in the presence of my divine guru, Lahiri Mahashaya, all my questions were answered and my problems disappeared. And then Master saying that in the presence of Sri Yukteswar, all my problems disappeared. Swamiji said that I went to Master with many questions, but once in his presence, I couldn't remember any of them. And he said because he lifted us to a higher state of consciousness where these questions cease to exist. And we certainly felt the same way with Swamiji. Swamiji, I have a question. Yes? I forgot. No, we didn't. That was not said often, but I definitely came. Okay, I've got to ask him a question. He asked for any questions. And he would say, okay, any questions? No questions. And it wasn't because of lesser awareness or lower consciousness, just like, because you could say, well, I had a lot of questions, but then I had a lot of beer. Now I have no questions. It's not, that's lowering our awareness. This is raising our awareness. And so again, we go beyond the level where all of these knots and, twists and turns exist. We go beyond that level. Then we just feel fine. And then if a challenge comes up, we can address it. You see, it doesn't make us dumber, it makes us smarter. because it's like clearing static out of the mind. You know, when you go to a restaurant and the music is too loud and you can't hear very well the person opposite you, then we can, it's distracting. And so it's like we have that going on, so we're trying to talk to God and get His answer, but when we meditate, it's like turning down that music. So then we can more easily hear. And then we're not so stressed. What did you say? And also, we're not so distracted and confused. So if a problem comes up, okay, maybe this could work. It helps us to sort out which problems to actually focus on. Because many of the problems are a problem only in here. As, for example, worrying about what am I going to do in 2019 Deepavali. Let's see, there's going to be so much smoke and noise, you see, and we'll just have to see. It's like, look, we haven't had 2018 Deepavali yet. And so Swamiji said, leave future problems to be solved by future energy. Have the faith, trust in God. You've made it thus far. You've cleared 12 standard exams, I think, right, everybody? Oh. You've cleared 13 standard exams, 14 standard exams. You see, every year is a standard and there's exams. Are we going to lose our cool? How did we deal with this crisis? And again, from a point of view of growing and of love, not of evaluation and pass or fail, and with a leaning towards fail. I don't remember the context of something, but I hit my hand on a desk, and it made a big noise, and I was speaking to a few friends who are present in this room, and I said, oh, this reminds me of when you go to the bank, and when they stamp something, all they have to do is just go stamp. They could even kind of go stamp, make sure the ink is on it, but they don't. They go boom. And then more than that, they love to hit the ink pad too. So boom, boom, boom. And I wonder if that's part of a training that happens, for the bank officers. Like, get the rhythm right. Boom, boom, boom. You hesitated. And it's nice when they do it together. Boom, 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 boom. There's 3 counters in a row. So I said I always wanted to have a stamp so that I could also be like that, would be like, okay, boom, boom, boom. And so, but when I did that, the stamp, of course, what is it? I'm talking about receiving the deposit. But when I said that, I said, okay, I was talking to one friend, Rajesh Srinivasan, and then I stamped it, and then my friend shouted out, rejected. And I said, no. I said, no, approved, accepted. But it made me realize that it's like that's the thought that can come up, that the automatic is rejection. And so when we talk about exams, when we talk about, did you learn your lessons? Did you get upset? The thought can be, no, I didn't learn my lessons, and yes, I did get upset. Boom, boom, boom. And we don't need to do that. We don't need to be critical of ourselves. All you have to do is compare yourself to how you were in the last life. That's the rub. We don't quite remember. But by and large, we've done better than we did in the last life. And if you don't like that, then say, well, in the next life, if I could look back to this life, I would say, thank you for learning these things in this lifetime because now I know them. You see? You've passed this learning forward to yourself. But the point is, God is trying to bring us back to Him. He's trying to heal us through light. He is light. We are light also. It isn't that we are matter and being affected by the light. We are that light. And so, in fact, it says in this reading from the Gita, for whom that darkness of the soul is chased by light. So in other words, those people that have that darkness, and then that darkness is chased away by the light. Chased away is a perfect example, just like Master said, that if you have darkness of ignorance, say it's the metaphor, in a room, you can't get rid of it by beating at it with a stick. You just have to turn the light on, and then the darkness will vanish as if it had never been. Even the darkness of 1,000 years, he said, is banished in an instant when you turn on the light. And that's how it is for us, and that's the experience of it. When you meditate, when you get on the spiritual path consciously, when you practice Kriya, when you come, like someone was telling me they had gone on the retreat to Pune recently, and how it just changed their whole perspective on everything. Almost too much, in the sense of you come back home and everyone's just like, back to standard thing, you should do this, you should do that, and blah, blah, blah. And I can understand, because we've had suddenly this expansive, liberating experience, and then someone says, now back to the cage. But it's God saying, not back to the cage, but now bring that into life and see what can be adjusted, what can be improved, and so on. But it says in the Gita, when that darkness, and it begs the question, what darkness? And so it is the stanza before this in the Gita, when we're talking, again, the point is, what is the darkness that is being chased by light? The Gita says, the all-pervading, meaning God, is not concerned about people's sins or virtues. Wisdom, though it is the natural state of every man, is eclipsed by cosmic delusion. Mankind thus becomes bewildered as to the difference between right and wrong. So, God is not concerned about people's sins or virtues. Isn't that an amazing thought? Because it sounds kind of the opposite. You wonder if some of the, religionists have read the Gita. God is not concerned with our sins or virtues. He's not keeping score because he loves you. And he's bringing you back. And again, one example is, what about all the mistakes we made in the past? If God really wanted to rub it in and make sure we learn from our mistakes, he wouldn't take away the memory of them between incarnations. So we'd come back and know exactly all the things that we had done wrong and so on. But out of his compassion, and probably because he tried it the other way and it didn't work, he thought, just have them forget. And so we get a fresh start. Master said, for example, suppose you died in the previous life of cancer. He said, when you would come back in this life, and if you had a little spot on your hand, you would be terribly afraid that the cancer had returned. And he said, so it's when someone said, why don't we remember our past lives? Master said, it is better, usually. Better so, not to remember them. Because again, we can just have a fresh start. What if we were a great success? Oh, wouldn't it be nice to know how great I was in the past? But the problem is, as in fact many, for example, in the case of science, many great scientists, having made one great discovery, are then sort of hemmed in by that. Because now there's an expectation. What else do you have? And one even said he found he couldn't even think about anything because he felt all his thoughts must be great from now on. And he thought, how ridiculous. He couldn't get any work done. So he just, dumped all of that and got back to work. And so a friend of mine who had made a great discovery in computer science, I said something to him once like, so will you do another one? And he said, who knows? He said a breakthrough like that might come through once in a lifetime. I don't know. I'm just keeping on working as I was working before I made that great discovery, and so on. So he was able to be separated from it enough in order to get working. So again, if we realized a great artist we were in the past, we might want to feel like we'd have to be that again. And after a while, 1,700 lifetimes as the best artists on the planet, you get pretty bored with it. Not other people, we ourselves just like, maybe I'll try something else. And so it's so nice to have a fresh start, a clean slate. There are memories, however, not necessarily conscious, but definitely subconscious, attractions. Why should we be attracted to spirituality, for example? Why should we be drawn to meditation? Why should we think, oh yes, that makes sense? All of this unseen world, it's unseen. It's different if God came out of the clouds and just said, ni va, you would just go fine. I mean, did you hear what he said? Everybody would go. But this is unseen, hidden. And so, in fact, in the Bible it says, faith is the proof of things unseen. Things? Pray for... Faith is the proof of things unseen, but it can go another way too, that when we have faith, in other words, it requires for us to have faith in things that are unseen, because it's not so easily provable. But we have experienced it. We have felt it. That's why it's so easy to be on the path without a lot of logical explanation. Actually, it is quite logical. I felt good. I feel good, as I've told some of you. My one friend said about why he takes the classes. I enjoy, so I continue. Others were saying, I would like to find God in this lifetime, which is also a good goal. But he said, I don't know about all that, but I enjoy, so I continue. Which is what we should all be saying. With one little caveat, one little asterisk footnote, that sometimes even if we aren't enjoying, at a certain point, there's enough momentum built up that we should still continue. Because sometimes, Maya tries everything to the devotee. I will mess up your family life. And just like, I see God in all things, and I'll just do the best that I can. I'll mess up, as Haridas said, Divine Mother. This is not Maya now, this is Divine Mother, so sorry to mix the metaphor, but he said Divine Mother sometimes gets lonely. And so she grabs our finances because she knows it will get our attention. And so sometimes, in going back to the previous layout, Maya will grab the finances and we'll say, that's okay, I can live with less and all is God and so on, I do my sadhana. Then sometimes Maya will grab the sadhana and then, said, I don't know. Energization, I'm too tired to energize. I don't have enough energy to get energy. I did it just this morning. I was in a rush for something, and I thought, the way the whole thing was, and I thought, all right, I'm just going to do the 10 instead of 10 exercises, because it's a shortened time that I have. And so I started doing the first one, and all this. And then before I knew it, suddenly I found that I had done this one, and I had 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I was going like this by the time I realized, wait a minute, I've been doing all of them in order. And I said, thank God for habit. In this case, a good habit saved me despite my express intention I'm not going to do. And lo and behold, more energy came to the brain and so on, which is exactly what I wasn't having before. So, God is not counting our virtues and sins and all of that. He is seeing us as growing, progressing, lifetime after lifetime. And He is very happy with this, with our progress, you could say. In other words, we always want to be more than we are, and that's good. That's a drive implanted in us, you could say, to expand and to be free. And so we want to follow that. But we can sometimes be caught up in the things we've done wrong, or the mistakes we've made, or the unfair situations and all these things. These are also from God as our new exams, as our stimulus to grow now. Because what happens? Wouldn't it be nice if you could go to 10th standard and you have no exams? No exams. It'd be so nice. Nothing but, uttapam all day long. And then what happens after that? When the school year ends and the new year begins, what do you have? 10th standard. Again. Because nothing has been accomplished, so you can't go to 11th. And so we ourselves, and whatever we're dealing with, it's only so that we can graduate. If we didn't have it, we would end up still in uttapam. Same place. I just love the sound of uttapam. I don't like it to eat it all that much, but I like to say it. So if we don't have that stimulus to grow, to graduate, to learn, you can't go on. You see? And so this is all that God is giving us. And in fact, it's probably what we have given ourselves. Imagine being in the astral world, and Master says you're almost free, but you have 10 more lifetimes. And so what's the natural reaction of the devotee? Oh, Master, can't I just have it in one? I don't want to be away from you all that long, and as long as I am in exile, might as well pack it all in as much as we can. Because who wants to wait 10 lifetimes and all these things? However, we can see it in its perspective too. It goes in so quickly and in such a short time, and so easily from that perspective in the astral world. Then we get down here and it's, what? Who ordered this? I did not ask for this. I clearly remember saying that, it was konjam, 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 and konjam, and instead it's terrible. It's kashtam, 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 and kashtam. Difficult. And so but you can see that if you're going to go through all the effort to be born and get a birth certificate and then a passport and then an Aadhaar card and a PAN card and who knows what other card is coming in 10 years, you might as well get your money's worth. I mean, get the value out of it, of all of these different lessons, so we can come back free. Who wants to go through 4 years of college but have 1 year of learning? Because you don't end up with your degree then, you see? And so this is all that's being given to us for us to have our degree. But it doesn't mean we have to solve everything. It's sort of, you get the exam paper for today's exam, you meditate on the light, and then it's as if that light just is like taking a match to the exam paper, and the paper just burns up and evaporates, and Master says, very good. Okay? God bless you.